And we should be live. Ahoy hoy, I'm Planet Walk, and today I am joined by Dave McKeegan, currently. We are waiting on Will Duffy, so he'll be here shortly. But in the meantime, we can talk to Dave to get his opinions on things.
Hello, everybody.
So I do actually have a question, and so I did want to get Jiren on for this stream because there is something that I would like to ask Jiren, if possible. But I'll ask you it because it's relevant to everyone. And the question is, what do you expect to see?
Well, I'm going out on a limb and saying I suspect it's not going to go dark. I've spoke to enough people, had conversations with enough people who have been there during December and say it's the sun doesn't set. So yeah, I'm fairly confident the sun's not going to set.
And I just noticed we had Will join.
Trying.
Oh, we're waiting on the video to load. You doing okay there? It wouldn't be a live stream if we didn't have any kind of technical difficulties.
There we go. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yes.
Okay, success.
Yes, joined just in time. So, I suppose the question that I should ask is the really basic question. I'm just going to turn my heat pump off. Is the really basic question of, how are you doing?
Pretty good.
You feeling...
It's been a long journey and a wild ride, but we're making progress.
You feeling nervous about it?
Not nervous, no. I might once we get there, but got a lot to do between now and then.
That is true. So, how did you come up with this idea?
Yeah, so I'll give kind of the backstory. It was 2021 when I first found out that Flat Earth was a real thing, meaning people actually believe this, and they have conferences and YouTube channels and the whole 9 yards. It was a friend of mine. She posted about it on Facebook. That's how I figured this out. I was fascinated at first. And I thought it would be easy to convince a flat earther that we live on a globe, show them the evidence, it would change their mind, but that wasn't the case. So I ended up deciding to stick with this and stuck with it for a good 2 years, learning all of their arguments, watching their videos, getting into debates online, everything, YouTube comments, Facebook, all of that. And then I decided just one day that I would want to create an experiment that would settle the debate. Now, I made that decision before I knew what the experiment would be. I just knew there's something we should be able to do that would convince both sides if they were right or wrong. And so I thought about it for months, and I heard Flat Earth David Weiss, say that a 24-hour sun in Antarctica doesn't work on a flat Earth, and that it would be something that would prove the globe. And that was my light bulb moment. And I said, you know what? If we can get to Antarctica, that will settle it right there.
Yeah. I suppose one of the things that... so when I come across someone who doesn't listen to any of the evidence, my big concern is that no matter what the evidence is, then they're not going to listen to it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's valid, and I've seen that, but that's why I chose the 24-hour sun as the final experiment, because they were the ones saying that it would falsify their model.
Yeah.
So that was a huge difference in terms of just coming up with something and then doing it and then saying here and letting them say, I don't accept it. It was like, okay, this was your idea, so let's do it and I'll pay for it.
Yeah. there's been quite a few people that have already. So, firstly, there are people who have turned down the trip. Like, the person who you mentioned, David Weiss, has turned down the offer. But not only that, you've got people that are preemptively trying to dismiss the experiment itself.
Yeah, so the reaction has been very interesting, for sure. A lot of flat earthers have turned down a free trip to Antarctica. And they've started making what I would call excuses, for lack of a better word, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me to do that ahead of time. I looked at this as a massive opportunity for both sides, the globe side and the flat earth side, as a chance to prove their own model right. It's not just about falsifying another model. And so on the flat earth side, I looked at this as an opportunity where they could show a setting sun where there's supposed to be a 24-hour sun on the globe model and kind of blow the lid off the globe here. And they have not really been excited about that opportunity. It's been more about, well, here's what they're going to do to fake a 24-hour sun. Here's what they'll do to lie. They won't record it. They won't be in Antarctica. They'll use a sun simulator. Everybody will be paid off by whoever. So yeah, it's been pretty wild.
Yeah, that all sounds like more of a just... Like, if you think that someone's going to try and fake it, it all seems more of a reason to go yourself, right? And...
Yeah, so that's logical, right? Yeah, that's logical. And I've tried to tell them that. I'm like, listen, guys, if you guys think that there's going to be funny business, then you want to make sure you're there, keeping everything fair and holding us accountable. So I've been asking people to, if you see a potential problem in the experiment or in the data that we're going to collect, tell me what that is, but more importantly, give me a solution. And the solutions thus far have almost exclusively come from the globe side. For example, people said we won't be in Antarctica. And so a flat earth debunker, Wolfie 6020, who I'm sure you're both familiar with, he said, okay, I'll solve that problem. I will donate 2 GPS units. I've got them right here. He paid for them. And he's like, that way both sides, Team Globe and Team Flat Earth, can use those to show exactly where you are and the path that you travel.
And I also, one of the things that I did because I remember having a call. It was a bunch of globe earthers and yourself, and what I remember saying is that we need Dave to go. Because I figured that someone who knows the equipment, someone who knows how to use cameras especially, would be the ideal candidate.
Yeah, absolutely. Taking video is hard enough. Taking pictures is hard enough, but being in that climate and in that weather and needing to keep batteries going, and then to make it even harder, if that wasn't hard enough, we have a bar that's very high that's been set by the flat earth side where they'll look for any possible thing to just disregard a video or a picture. And so we're thinking through that as well. Like, how do we make sure that the battery never runs out? And what do we do when we need to change the memory card and all things of that nature?
So I guess a good right now would be a good time to defer to Dave as to what he plans to do about that.
Well, we've I think there's a couple of plans in place. I know Will's bought. It's 2 Insta360s you've got, isn't it, Will?
That's right.
So the idea with that is to set 2 360 cameras up so that when one needs changing, the other one will still be recording, so there will be an overlap to be able to show that the reason there's a cut in the footage is because here we are changing the camera, changing the memory card, or changing the battery. I've also bought an Insta360 as well, which I'm not going to set up as a actual video recording. I'm going to set it up as a time lapse instead, so that can be one non-stop continuous 24-hour recording. I've bought a big solar panel and a battery pack to run that with as well. So we've tried to cover up as many excuses as we can think of, but I've no doubt they will still come up with more.
Yeah. I remember someone saying about live streaming, because I remember a few things. Watching a live stream beforehand or something and commenting on the live stream to show that you're in Antarctica.
Yeah. So that was one of the things I tried to. I figured I might try and integrate as a way of. I mean, we're going to be in a place surrounded by ice and snow, so there's only it's only north or south that you can go. But I kind of figured that there would be some people who argued that maybe we'd gone up to the north during the northern summer to film the 24-hour sun there, because flat earthers accept there is a 24-hour sun there, and that we were then just going to wait 6 months and then show the footage and claim we were actually in Antarctica. So I figured if we were to put a video out showing us interacting with a flat earther's live stream would be preferable. You know, if like Flatoid or somebody was streaming whilst we were either in Chile and or in Antarctica, and we were able to stream ourselves watching that, they couldn't really argue that we'd faked it, because we couldn't have known 6 months in advance what they were going to be streaming.
Yeah. And also, if it comes up in the live chat, then, you know, it's something which there's, how do you put it? It's just more evidence to show that you are actually in Antarctica.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there's something else. There's something else too, which is that, you know, there's a lot of people going now to Antarctica for the final experiment. And so if that conspiracy theory were to be true, that would have meant months ago we flew Jaren, Austin, Lisbeth, Dave McKeegan, myself, MCToon, Critical Think to the north to film something that they're all in on, and none of them are going to blow the whistle on it. And then the sun on the globe model in the north goes in the exact opposite direction than it does in Antarctica. So our video would actually have to be reversed. And the videos we're going to have, there'll be people walking around, and so that whole idea doesn't even work.
I mean, I suppose you could... one of the things that I'd say, because you could just flip the video. So what you have to do is you have to have words. Like, have a t-shirt, especially a t-shirt, like if Dave has already worn a t-shirt, maybe have a t-shirt that you're wearing so that you can see this is, you know, it's a very simple thing, you know, but it is something that could help, because you could always say, oh, the t-shirt was reversed in advance, you know, well, not a t-shirt. I just realized you're in a very cold place. So not a t-shirt, but like something that, like words on whatever the outermost layer of clothing is.
Possible solution to that is if we have a compass. I was thinking about putting a compass within the shot anyway, for the 360, so that you can see clearly, because I know they pull up that Anthony Powell one and say that it was faked because he'd written over on the video which is where the relevant directions are. So I was thinking if we had a compass and we put that within the frame anyway, but then that would also show that it wasn't flipped, because then east and west would be backwards.
Yeah, that is a very good point. Yeah, there's just a lot of things that because as Professor Phil Bell in the chat has pointed out, it's important to remember that evidence is not the reason that people became flat earthers, so it's evidence is unlikely to change their mind. But I find that a lot of the time when it comes to flat earthers, it's not so much about the evidence. It's about trying to poke holes in the evidence. I mean, I assume you've both seen Level Earth Observer's videos where he looks at footage from the ISS, and his whole thing is not to try and prove that the Earth is flat. It's to try and show that the globe is fake by poking holes, even if those criticisms are invalid.
Yeah, yeah, it's they're definitely good at that. Yeah, they're good at that. The problem is that science is about making predictions and then testing them. Science is not about being right all the time. So the one thing that the globe model does way better than the flat Earth model is we make predictions and then we are testing them. That's exactly what this is. And so they don't like to make predictions on the flat Earth model. I don't know why. They don't admit why, but I think it's because they realize how easily it would be to disprove. And so they've been very confident about this flat Earth being the AE map, which I have on my background here, which actually works for a lot of things. They are now quickly trying to abandon that AE map, which I think is a huge mistake. I'm going to be showing them why they should not be abandoning it. But yeah, it's a bit of a mess, in my opinion.
Yeah, because I think they've been trying to abandon the AE map for quite a while now. Not exactly abandon it, but say, well, we don't have a model, therefore you're not allowed to say that we ascribe to any certain one. And I think it's because because it's not just the 24-hour sun that's a problem. It's the sun, right? In the southern hemisphere, during the summer, I can look to the southeast and see the sun rise in the morning. It'll travel north, and then it will set in the southwest. That is a big problem if the sun is going around the North Pole.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that. Because in their model, it would be northeast to northwest.
Yeah.
And I don't know what their answer is to that.
Yeah, I do know that they do try to come up with, like, they've got this thing I've seen where it's like a small, like, glass dome, and they will shine a light and they'll say, look, you can get this is how it works. Unfortunately, the atmosphere is not made of glass last time I checked.
Right. Yeah, they use a solid glass dome. The other thing too that I just thought of the other day is that they need the sun to be outside the firmament for all of these demonstrations to be true. If the sun is outside the firmament, then that kind of goes against their sun simulator idea, because if the sun's outside the firmament, we have no control over that. We can't block that. We can't manipulate it, which means, again, a simulated sun's not even possible. But if there was a simulated sun, it would create two suns, and that's not something that we are expecting to see or predicting with the globe model either.
Yeah, I find that this is a theme with a lot of conspiracy theorists, though. They will essentially say that something, you can do some fantastical idea that's not really possible, expecting science to act like magic.
Yeah, right, right.
Yeah,
like it's pretty interesting. I did hope, I was a little bit too optimistic here, but I did hope that this kind of thing, the excuses or trying to change the model, would happen after the experiment and not before. So that has been a bit of a curveball, but I think that's been a beneficial curveball because it's allowing us to plan and to make, better preparations and all of that.
I think an important question to ask Dave is, and yourself is, what if you don't see a 24-hour sun? What then?
Well, I suppose it depends on when you... Yeah, I mean, for me, it means when you say there's no we don't see a 24-hour sun. Do you mean in the respects of what the flat Earth model predicts, or just the weather prevents us from seeing the sun?
Well, actually, both is a valid question. So I suppose I'll go with the weather, and then we'll go with the.
So, I mean, the weather's a roll of the dice, really. I think hopefully the fact that it's a 4-day trip, we'd be pretty unfortunate to have bad weather constantly. But as far as I can tell, even if we don't see a continual a non-stop 24-hour view of the sun, even if we get sort of here and there, I can't fathom any flat Earth model that would allow the sun to appear in the south. Full stop. So even if we just see the sun south of us, that disproves any flat Earth model that I can imagine.
Yeah, that is a good point. But yeah, what about you, Will?
Yeah, so the weather piece is, interesting. There are things that we will be able to do if weather is an issue, possibly infrared photography, but I'm not worried about there being bad weather for the entire time that we're there. But as Dave said, a sun to the south, in my opinion, already refutes the flat Earth model. Plus, I am going to ask people who have the ability to take solar photography with a solar filter on their camera to take pictures of the sun. And so we'll have someone, hopefully multiple people in your part of the world, in Australia, New Zealand, taking pictures of the sun while we take pictures of the sun to our south. And they'll look the same, presumably with the same sunspots, and that will be showing that when the sun was to our south, it is, where you guys are, which is not possible on a flat Earth model.
That's a good point. It is one of those things where the sunspots, though the flat earthers do try to get around the sunspots by saying, it's outside the dome, so of course we're going to see or it's a hologram, so of course we're going to see the same sunspots. It's a number of excuses, but I do want to ask, what if the results that we get do not match the globe?
Yeah, I have no problem saying if the sun rises and sets each day where we'll be, I have no problem saying that the globe is wrong and we live on a flat Earth.
How about you, Dave?
Well, I mean, we've got into this for 6 months saying this is what the globe model predicts. If that's not what happens, then the globe model's wrong. So I would have to take a long, hard look at the model of Earth that I believe in.
That's fair. Like, I feel like with the flat earthers that are going, like, Jeranism to me seems the most honest. If it turns out that there is a 24-hour sun, and I do expect there to be a 24-hour sun, but there is something that I want to get to. But if there's a 24-hour sun, then I think that Jiren might change his mind. I don't expect him to completely ditch away all the flat Earth stuff, but I expect him to say, hey, maybe at the very least, maybe we're wrong about a lot of stuff when it comes to flat Earth. I'm not so sure about Austin. He seems to have enjoyed a lot of popularity from this. Didn't he go on InfoWars or something to debate?
He did a few months back, but all of that was before. I think all of that was before he'd actually accepted going. Both of them seem to have been quite quiet with any flat Earth content for the past few months. Well, good 5 or 6 weeks, I think. I've not really seen much from either of them. They seem to have all been both moving on to other conspiracy topics instead. So
maybe maybe it is that they expect to see a 24-hour sun, or maybe they're preparing for if they do see a 24. I don't know, but yeah, it's certainly interesting to see what the reaction will be from the flat earthers that go. And I don't expect them all to change their minds instantly, but at the very least, I expect them to take a good long look at what they believe and hopefully reevaluate it.
Yeah,
they will.
I think maybe not so much the flat earthers that make content about flat Earth. I think they'll probably take a bit more, or a hell of a lot more, to drop it. But I think it will be their audience that maybe is a bit more open-minded to it all.
What do you think, Will?
Yeah, I think what I've noticed, and this is probably true on the globe side as well, but I've noticed that a lot of flat earthers have one or two kind of high-profile flat earthers that they follow, and I think that they really look up to them and trust them. And if you've got Austin and Jaron who are actually there and they report back, "Hey guys, the sun never set," they're gonna believe them, and then they're gonna have to make up their mind as to what they do with that information. This idea of going back to the drawing board and creating a new flat Earth model to me seems like a non-starter, because there's so much that you have to account for in this world that we live in addition to just the sun, right? You've got to be able to account for the moon. You've got to be able to account for stars and their rotation. You've got to be able to account for flights and flight paths and where they travel and what the distance is. And so in my mind, the AE map is the only one that can make some sense of all of these things. And so that's what makes the final experiment final, is the AE map would be completely falsified with a 24-hour sun, or even a sun to the south of where you are in Antarctica.
Yeah.
The other issue that flat earthers will have is there have been so many of them for so long who have used the AE map with, like you say, flights, and they talk about diverting flights. They don't make any sense. And then they draw them on an AE map and say they form close to straight lines. If they're going to throw the AE map out, then every other claim that they've ever made about that is involved the AE map also has to go, and they are really back to square one, and I can't see them doing it. I think they'll look for some excuse as to what has caused a 24-hour sun on the AE map.
Yeah, I think it is funny, because there was one flat earther that I saw who tried to claim that a certain flight works better on the AE map. And it was a flight that went from, I think it was India to New Zealand, and it went around Australia. And what this person says is, that doesn't work on the globe. It works better on the AE map, even though on the AE map you're taking a big circle. So it is one of those things where it's weird how the excuses and all that that they try to make. But one thing that I did want to... One of the things that I do want to mention is part of me kind of wants the flat Earth model to be right in this regard. There's a little chaotic gremlin in me that says, if the flat Earth model is right, then that would be really fun. But also, part of the reason is because of how many flat earthers have tried to dismiss this experiment.
Yeah, I can tell you that, just coming from my perspective, my wife thinks it would be super cool if the flat Earth model was true, because then there's potentially more lands that we haven't discovered, potentially new animals we haven't discovered, and potentially new people out there. But I kind of see that it's not exactly the same, but it's very similar to people who think there are aliens in space and there's more to explore in space. So you kind of have that excitement on both sides.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Like, the idea of there being more lands beyond the ice wall is very it is very, what's the word? It's
Intriguing?
it's a sort of intriguing thing, and I think this is part of the reason why a lot of people not only believe flat Earth, but believe a lot of conspiracy theories, is because it does kind of excite the imagination to think, oh, what if there's more land that we didn't know about? And if there is land beyond, let's say an ice wall, then you go beyond that, and then you can find more land without having to spend all the resources to go into space, which is, a lot of people, I think, have become disillusioned with the idea of traveling to distant worlds because of the fact that space is really big. To get to the closest star system is going to take, it would take like Voyager, I think the Voyager probe. I can't remember if it's Voyager 1 or 2, but it would take that like thousands of years to get to the closest star system.
Yeah, did you guys
get in there?
What's that?
Did either of you see the movie Passengers?
No, I didn't.
So it's a fascinating story. It's obviously just a movie, so it's not true. But in that movie, space travel is a thing now, and they kind of like put you into this like sleep where you don't age, because where they're traveling to takes like 90 years, and so that's just a fascinating idea.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's probably the most realistic idea of going to another planet. But also, like, even just being put into a cryogenic sleep so that you can see what the future looks like. Though it would be pretty terrifying to wake up and, like, everything's been destroyed.
Yeah, I'm not taking that risk.
That is a very good point. But yeah, I think it would also be interesting when it comes to if the flat earthers are right, and then there are a lot of flat earthers that have tried to preemptively dismiss this, because a lot of flat earthers, it kind of shows the confidence that they have, being able to. I think it speaks volumes that pretty much every globe earther has said, yeah, we expect to see this, and there have been no globe earthers who have really said. Who have said, I don't want to go.
Right. Yeah. The globe side, even Professor Dave, so he just interviewed me this past week, and he even said in the interview, he's like, Will, I kind of wish I followed this closer. I wish I knew it was you behind it, because he's like, I would have wanted the free trip that Dave got, so that Dave McKeegan got.
Well, I'm quite glad he didn't follow it.
I mean, yeah. To be fair, there was really bad timing when you put out one of the initial videos, because I remember watching it like a few days after it released, and I looked at I looked at when it came out, and it was like March. Was it? I can't remember which day which.
It was March 31st.
Yeah, and for me, when I see that timestamp, I'm like, well, that's that could be. I think I got a little bit confused, because it was like, I was like, that's probably April 1st or something, when it's sort of like around that time. Although I suppose it should have been April 2nd for me, but.
It might have been April 1st for you, actually.
Maybe. I can't quite remember. I can't remember what time it said it came out, but for me, I was like, oh, this is probably an April Fool's thing, because I remember seeing it and being like, well, there's not really an experiment here. It's just listing a bunch of creators. So that was my initial thought. And I think that's probably what Professor Dave probably thought as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think pretty much everybody did. But for people that know me, that's my style. I love mystery. I love surprises. And so that's what I did.
That does make sense. I think I really started paying attention when MCToon said, I've spoken to this person, it's legit. And I was like, okay, well, I'll try to join the call. I can't remember. There was a reason. Oh, I had just gotten my tooth out. I remember that. And so I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be up to it, but the numbing stuff was subsiding, so I was actually, able to speak, which helps. But yeah, it was something that I didn't initially trust, and it didn't even think was initially real.
It's all right.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I was skeptical
now.
about it all as well.
I think both sides. So I think the globe side was afraid it was a flat earther, and I think the flat earthers were afraid it was a glober.
I knew. I'd been talking about it a little bit. I think it was Hugh Jarsz had been on a stream with him. Not Veritas. It was the Veritas who did the big documentary. I'd done my interview with him sort of as the details had started to come out, but before everything was known. And I'd kind of said there, it's got to be someone who's confident in the globe, because no flat earther that I know of would suggest something so big, so public, and invite a load of us along to validate everything as well. So I'd kind of suspected it was a glober, but once it all came about with Antarctica, I didn't for 1 second imagine somebody prepared to put this much money to the trip.
I mean, maybe...
Yeah, that makes...
I was just going to say, maybe Flat Earth millionaire. I don't know if he's actually a millionaire, but...
Yeah, I finally got him to respond to me, by the way. And he wants nothing to do with going to Antarctica, so...
It's weird.
I'm shocked. How
so many flat earthers will confidently say, they have so much confidence in what they say, and I think they're wrong, but they're not willing to go out and try and actually show what they believe is correct. Like as you said earlier, like Professor Dave was willing to go. Like I would have been willing to go if there was no one else that I thought was more competent than myself. I'd be like, okay, I'll go. I don't really have much. Don't have much going. I mean, it's around Christmas time, but I assume I'd be back by then. But yeah, it's one of those things which, even if it is something where where it shows what you don't want to show, whether you're on the globe side or the flat earth side, it's still worth going. It's a trip to Antarctica. How many people can say that they've been to Antarctica?
Yeah, very few. It's got to be much less than 1%.
Yeah. So,
well, that was my position with it as well. I was sort of, when the offer came about, and initially I thought it's close to Christmas. There's other things going on. My cousin's actually getting married during that time, and I'd already accepted that I was going to go. And then the offer came up, and I had to sort of sheepishly go and speak to him. I was like, "Would you be bothered if I couldn't make it?"
Wow. Wow.
But once I told him the offer, he was just like, he just said, "It's not even a discussion. Just go."
I love when people are supportive of that kind of stuff. I suppose, though, should you decide to do the final experiment too, then and up the offer to going to space, I'm definitely in for that one.
I don't know if that will ever happen, or if a flat earther would agree to go.
That is true. Like one of the big things with going to space is you kind of do have to prepare for it, at least from what I've heard. I mean, you have to prepare for going to Antarctica too. It is very cold. and this, so I have spoken a long time ago to Landon Knoll, who is someone who has been to Antarctica. And so I'm going to, because I'm assuming both of you are going, because I did hear something about you're going to give up your spot to, actually, this is a good question, because Jiren wanted Austin to go with him. And initially you were going to give up your spot to Austin. Is it still a thing where you're not going to go, or is it Austin's going to go? And
No, so I did give up my seat for Austin, but I now have the ability to go, so I'll be there as well.
Okay. I'm guessing you got some extra funds or something like that.
Yep, that's right.
Okay. So, both of you, important things to be careful of. Firstly is Antarctica is quite a dangerous place. So you want to... So this is an important thing. A lot of flat earthers will say you're not allowed to freely explore Antarctica. Technically, you are. There's nothing stopping you. There's not enough people there to stop you. But it's not exactly the best idea. Like if you go far, if you decide to journey far from the camp, make sure you take someone with you, so that if something happens to you, then then there's someone to say, hey, something's happened to this person, we need help. Because it could be that...
I have no plans on leaving camp.
Yeah.
No, not me neither. I was quite happy to stay in camp. Now Ailey have said they're going to put us, set us a sort of mini site up. I think that's about as far as we're traveling, and we won't be walking there.
Right, that's right.
Yeah, so that's important thing number one, because one sort of joke question that I have for Dave is Rusty gonna go?
I would, but he won't fit in the suitcase.
Because I thought maybe spending so much time around flat earthers might drive you insane, and you might try to do one of those things where you hop on a sled, get Rusty to pull you along, try to escape to the South Pole where there's far more saner people.
No, I think we'll be okay. I think there's enough sane people coming along as well.
That is true. You'll have has MCToon managed to fundraise enough for it?
He's still fundraising, but his fundraising is doing well, but he needs more help.
Okay.
Sure.
So yeah, like if anyone wants to see MCToon go, keep Dave and Will company, then that's something that you can donate. What's the other? I was going somewhere, but I forgot. Oh, important things to watch out for. So you will need to keep warm, but not too warm. This is something that I've heard, and it is if you start sweating, then that sweat will actually cool you down. So and that's not good. That's not good for being in a place that's already pretty cold. So I think what I've heard is it can actually cool you down a bit pretty badly. So yeah, watch out for that. Whilst it's recommended to bring a decent number of layers, don't bring too many layers to the point that you start sweating and you actually end up colder than you otherwise would have.
That's good to know. Hopefully, if we do end up too warm, we could also just take a layer off. Yeah,
but the most important thing is don't sweat. And I don't like. You could, I suppose, you could try to take some like antiperspirant or something. But the problem with that, of course, is that you to effectively use antiperspirant, you need to be able to have some skin that you can spray it on. That's not exactly a good. That's not exactly a good thing. I actually just realized that I probably wouldn't do well No, I don't want to restart in 5 minutes. And a good reason. So yeah, don't eat spicy food is another thing, I suppose.
That sounds wise.
I'm trying to think if there's any other important thing. I suppose like, so you've got like a website with the scoreboard and everything on it. What's the scoreboard looking like right now?
So right now it's 10-3. So 10 people that I invited on the globe side have participated. 3 people on the flat Earth side. You'll be number 11, by the way, because you were one of the original 24. A lot of people have been asking me how I chose the 24 and why I chose 24. And the 24 was purely symbolic, right? It's the year 2024. We're going to see whether or not there's a 24-hour sun. So I chose 24 flat earthers and 24 globers. How I chose them was simply who I had come across in this deep dive into flat Earth. So there were people that were missed that have bigger followings, but it's just the way it worked out. So if I invited you, I had seen something that you had done in the flat Earth versus globe space. Pretty much as simple as that. I got an email today, actually. People are upset that I didn't invite some Brazilian flat earthers. I just didn't know who they were. And so the cool thing is that this entire time, our trip is open to the public. Anyone can go. This is not a special trip that is just for us. It's a trip that ALE, Antarctic Logistics and Expeditions, puts on every single year, and anyone can join us. It's not more expensive because of the final experiment. It's their regular rate. And so far, one guy just self-funded. He's a glober. He's from Australia. He heard about TFE, and he's like, I want to go. So I connected him with ALE. He paid them, and he's coming. So it's getting down to crunch time. But if anybody wants to come and they want to pay their own way, the door is not closed. But free trips are all gone.
Yeah. Because I do remember there were people that said that, I'll contact Will. Some people that, I think barely anyone had heard of to try and get the free trip, but it's not a thing where it's like free for everyone. There is, I assume you don't have infinite money.
Not quite.
Yeah, so that's one controversy that I saw, and it is quite important, I think, that it's people that you've heard of, because those are the people that usually have followings. Like I don't think that Dave McKeegan's going to try and lie about this. I trust him a lot more than let's say, I don't know, who's a, like, if I'm trying to think of a relatively unknown globe earther. The problem is that anyone I can think of is probably not relatively unknown.
Right.
But let's say that there was someone with 100 subscribers that went, and I've never heard of them before. It's like, They might be good, but it's a little harder to be like, that's the person for the job. And especially on the flat Earth side, where you've got a lot of conspiracy, you want people that have a following that more flat Earthers trust. Because if it's just some person with 100 followers there, it's like, well, who are you? You're clearly just a plant, right?
Right, yeah, and they would be discarded by the flat Earth community immediately.
Yeah. How is... I think I've heard things about Jiren being attacked for going on the final experiment.
He was attacked for saying it was a good idea and that he was considering accepting the free trip. They went crazy, which, again, doesn't make sense to me. They started calling him a shill. He started, saying that, he was probably in on it with behind the curve. And none of that is true. He's got almost 10 years in this space doing this full time. So yeah, it's very it reeks of desperation to me.
Yeah, it is one of those things where it's hard for me to take Flat Earth seriously when they're trying to dismiss all the people that are going. Like, Austin Whitsitt is someone who I'm not a big fan of, but I would say that him actually accepting it gives him a bit more credibility as a flat earther.
Mm-hmm. And definitely. Yeah, he actually said before I came out with the final experiment that he was planning on going to Antarctica this December anyway to see about the 24-hour sun. So as far as how I look at it, I saved him a bunch of money.
Yeah. I think that when it comes to Dave Weiss, there's like him not accepting it is a big red flag for me.
Yeah, so he's not having the best year. He turned down the trip, which was not a good look for him. And then now he's got all this stuff going on with his app and all the data not being protected and being leaked. And I just don't think he's handling that well either. So, yeah,
maybe it wasn't the best thing for him to do to accept. Yeah, maybe accepting wasn't the best thing. He couldn't have known. Well, I suppose he kind of could partially know, but it's hard to know that. Oh, this year people are going to find out all the problems with my app. So maybe it is a good idea that he didn't accept, but at the same time, he probably didn't know that there were going to be problems with his app that he'd have to deal with. So it is something where
it's tough to say. I mean, I don't know who's behind this app thing, figuring it out. But what if they looked into it because he turned down the trip and because they're like, man, maybe he is a scammer or whatever. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen songs about him being I think I've seen a song about him being a scammer. So, yeah, it's not a good look. And the fact that, like, Nathan Oakley, I remember seeing something about him turning down a trip. It's just... I think what this experiment is doing is it's separating flat earthers who genuinely believe that the Earth is flat and want to learn more from the flat earthers that are in it for the money and the attention.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. This is going to make people think I'm a little weird, but remember, I'm not as intimately familiar with the players as everyone else. I thought it would be kind of cool to have Nathan Oakley come with us to Antarctica. But then when he declined the trip and people started reaching out to me, kind of telling me about things he's done in the past, giving me links to his videos, I was like, okay, now I understand him a little bit more, and maybe he wouldn't have been the best person to have on the trip. But I would suggest, if you guys haven't seen it, to see how Nathan Oakley treated Austin Whitsitt last week.
Oh?
It was insane. It was one of the most brutal treatments of another human being I've ever seen. And Nathan put it on his channel. It's like a 2-hour ordeal, but Oakley put like a 15-minute version of it up, which is the highlights. And it is wild because, again, they're supposed to be on the same team, but they wouldn't let Austin speak. If he'd get like 3 words out and they would mute him, and he was berated. Like Nathan Oakley said, "Get out of Flat Earth. We never want to see you again. This is my community. It's not yours. You're a scammer. You're a liar. You're a grifter." Nathan Oakley was saying no one should ever give Austin another super chat or another dime ever again. It was wild. So anyway, now I'm starting to understand a little bit more about the kind of person that he is, Nathan Oakley.
Yeah, I've only ever heard him say one thing that was nice, and it wasn't about Flat Earth. It's one of those things where I honestly feel like Nathan Oakley wants to be the king of Flat Earth. and he doesn't care how much of Flat Earth he destroys in order to get that. As it's like wanting to be, I suppose, king of a mountain, but you get rid of the mountain and you're just left with a dirt pile, and you stand atop that going, I'm king of the mountain, but you've removed the entire mountain, which is the thing that would have made it impressive in the first place. And I think that's what Nathan is trying to be.
Oh, wow, that's a really good way of putting it. Now, your audience might be interested to hear this. Math Powerland seems to have been resurrected by TFE. As far as I know, he disappeared. And for those of you who don't know who Math Powerland is, he goes all the way back to Behind the Curve, and even prior to that, he was doing some sort of a stand-up routine and said he was an artist for NASA and was, painting these pictures that they were claiming were photos. So he seems to have been resurrected by TFE. He secretly recorded a phone call with me. So someone put us in touch and they were like, Will, Math really wants to talk to you. And I was like, that's fine. And, so we exchanged some texts to figure out what time to speak. And I thought we were just going to have like a private call, but he secretly recorded it and put it on YouTube. The reason I'm bringing this up is because according to Math Powerland, he is the king of Flat Earth. So he and Nathan Oakley are going to have it out and figure out who's the real king, I guess.
Yeah, I vaguely remember the name, but I don't think you can call yourself the king of Flat Earth when you haven't really been around for a while.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, it seems kind of weird. I'm sure you guys remember the movie Gladiator. That was like a really big movie with Russell Crowe.
I think I remember vaguely watching it in social studies.
Okay, so in that movie, I'm not good at quoting movies verbatim, but in that movie, they're gonna have to face something. They don't know what it is, and I think Russell Crowe's like, "Hey guys, whatever we face out there, we have our best chance if we face it together." And so what I don't think the Flat Earth side realizes is how fractured they are, how divisive they are, and how much they all just try to be better than each other. And it's just so divided. I don't see how they're ever going to be successful in their mind with everybody going after each other and fighting over who's first and who's king and all that kind of stuff. They should look at the globe side, because at least with TFE, I'm not saying there isn't disagreements on the globe side, but with TFE, the globe side has just been kind of a united front, and it's just like, hey, Will, this is a good idea. We think it's definitive. We support you. So,
yeah,
I agree. I agree. That I think. I know, Will, as much as you say Team Globe, Team Flat Earth, I don't think there is a Team Flat Earth, because they're all in factions. They're all having their own little battles with each other. It's like having saying you've got an 11-man football team, but every player's just playing their own game and nobody's talking to each other and you're all arguing about everything. None of them can agree on anything. The moment any of them start questioning things, everyone else just hounds on them like jackals. You've got Level Earth Observer, who is absolutely adamant he's not a flat earther, despises the idea of being called a flat earther. Yet everything he believes seems to align with flat earthers, but he doesn't want to align himself with flat earthers. And yeah, I think you might take one or two of the factions out, but they'll all just be carrying on fighting with each other. And I think Nathan Oakley's never going to be the king of Flat Earth. He might be the king of his little faction, but they're all just sort of, they can't agree on anything. They're all arguing with each other. It's quite hilarious how much this has put the cat amongst the pigeons. I didn't expect the reactions that you've created.
I do very much agree that Flat Earth is very divided. One of my favorite Flat Earthers, I've never seen him really interact with any other Flat Earther. That's CC, right? like he's just off doing his own thing. And whereas when it comes to the globe side, you know, I've seen interactions between yourself, FTFE. I think you've appeared on Simon Dan, but I see a lot of, like, not everyone agrees, and sometimes there will be disagreements between two people that are on the same side, but usually those disagreements are just between two people. You can draw a line from one person to another person to the person that they disagree with. It's not so much a thing where we're trying to be like, oh, this... And sometimes I've disagreed with FTFE on things, right? I don't think that Flat Earth quite meets the definition of a cult, despite having a lot of cult-like aspects. But I think that the problem that Flat Earth has is that they don't realize the value of unity, and it doesn't have to be undying unity, right? It doesn't have to be, we're just going to look past every problem that Dave Weiss has. It doesn't have to be that. At the very least, though, you could be like, hey, we have our differences, but fundamentally we believe the same thing, and we want to work towards showing the world that this thing is correct.
Yeah, the closest thing that I see on the Flat Earth side to, you know, at least being cordial with one another, teaming up together, is Weiss, Jaren, and Austin. Everybody else is just kind of out there.
Yeah. I mean,
It's going to be very awkward in January.
That is very true. It is one of those things where I see... I do see like a slight bit of unity in some areas, like that Caleb guy he's friendly with David Weiss, and I think he's friendly with the Twitter Flat Earthers. I'm not sure if he has a Twitter account anymore because he was posting some pretty nasty stuff, but I'm not sure that you get banned for that anymore. But like the thing is, he did manage to bridge some gaps, but then there's also, like, I don't think he ended up on Nathan Oakley's channel at all. You know, Nathan Oakley would be like, oh, this person is bigger than me. You know, can't have that. Whereas I see growth as a thing where if you have, like, if I work with someone smaller than me that I think is good, then I am going to work with that person, even if you know that might hurt my my viewership. But I don't care. It's not about my viewership. If they get big, then that's not just a good thing for them, but it's also in the future can be a good thing for me too. It's one of those things that I don't think Flat Earthers realize is they feel like they're in competition with one another when it's really a thing where you should be building each other up.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I have tried to help them kind of see how their community is viewed from the outside, because it's often hard to see our own lives objectively. And I just don't know how much of it is sticking. So
that's actually a really good point, because it is one thing where sometimes, and this goes into like a lot of other discussions, so I'll keep it brief, or as brief as I can. But a lot of times it is something where you don't know how far down a rabbit hole that you've gone sometimes, like whether it might be enjoying a game too much or watching too much of a particular type of content. I mean, when it comes to watching things like YouTube and TikTok, people scroll for hours on that, and then, next thing it's 5 a.m. You're supposed to go to a meeting at 8 a.m. That's not what happened last night, by the way. But it is one of those things where that kind of thing can happen, and I think a lot of flat earthers don't realize how deep they are into flat earth. We've heard stories about flat earth destroying relationships. Like, there are a lot of flat earthers who have been ostracized by their family, and you could say, oh, well, it's the family's fault, but really it's their own obsession with the flat earth. I don't want to, if I'm at a family gathering, I don't want to hear about, like, cringe conspiracy theories. I want to have fun.
Yeah, a lot of people like to bring up their pet issues at every opportunity, and what they don't realize is that if someone else doesn't share that interest, they're not even going to want to really hang out with them anymore.
Yeah, I've had to learn that myself. I used to always want to talk about my own personal interest, and a lot of people were like, well, we're not interested in that. So it's something where I've had to be like, okay, well, I can't always talk about triangles. You know, I've got a triangle here, by the way. So yeah. That's just something that I've found that a lot of people... I've found that a lot of people don't really realize about themselves. And also it is hard to work out how you are viewed.
I think...
You go first.
Sorry. I was just going to say, I think flat earthers, a problem that I see from the outside looking in, is they're not open to the idea of being wrong about things. Like, we'll all have our own idea of how something works, and you go with that idea until someone points out an issue. But you then have to be open to the idea that you might be wrong about something. That's where you then have the discussion back and forth. I've done videos where I've thought everything I've just said in this video is right as far as I know, and then people comment and say, you got this bit wrong, you got that bit wrong, because there's aspects that I've not accounted for, I've not considered, because you just get so focused on what you know, your own confirmation bias sets in. I think with flat earthers, they don't have a lot of them, they don't like the idea that they might be wrong about something. So the moment even other flat earthers start trying to question what they think, they just immediately go very defensive and close off. And then you end up with the dumpster fires, like whenever Oakley and Austin Whitsitt come together, or, you know, they don't like... The only way that Flat Earth had any hope of ever moving forward is for them all to, like you said before, Will, to actually come together and work as a team and say, how could this happen? How can this happen? What fits with everything? But like they don't even with the 24-hour sun. Most of them now are just saying, there could be a 24-hour sun. What difference does it make?
Yeah, I actually do agree with that, because and earlier, well, not earlier this year, but late last year, Level Earth Observer put out a video that I responded to, and I did not realize that the astronauts were just joking around in the video, right? And then I had people say, hey, look, this is a joke. I had you even reach out and say, hey, look, this was a joke. And it's like, like, you don't want to be wrong. I wasn't wanting to be wrong. And so I was like, okay, I'll put out a video correcting it, and hopefully it will be well. What I noticed later is that Level Earth Observer went ahead and... Yeah, Level Earth Observer went ahead and made a video saying that initially some globe earthers said that it was a joke, and then there were globe earthers that said that it was real, and then later the globe earthers that said that it was real falled in line with the globe earthers that said that it was a joke. And it's like, no, I wasn't falling in line. I was just reevaluating my stance on the evidence.
Yeah, it's important to admit when we're wrong, and it's also important to realize that everyone thinks they're right, and we all have different opinions, which means we're wrong on something. And so if you make a concerted effort in your life to figure out where you're wrong, you'll definitely progress in life, I think.
Yeah. I do have a super chat that for $20 from Beyond the Storm Chasers, I think it is, saying, "This time zone spread is wild. Glad this came together. I monologued about the final experiment on my channel late last night. I recommend the book When Prophecy Fails. I think it will shed some light on what to expect post the final experiment." And that's a good point. Because I haven't read the book, but I know the basic concept. You've heard about cults when they have like doomsday predictions and then the doomsday prediction doesn't come to pass, right? Yeah, and it is something where despite things not coming to pass, they will be like, well, it didn't come to pass because of this. We all got saved or whatever because of some nebulous action. I think it is something which could shed some light on things, so that is something worth considering. And Dave, I know that you sometimes make videos on that, so that could be something that you could make a video about.
I'll have a look into it. I know Level Earth Observer's already trying to say that there'll be a 24-hour sun because of pigeons.
What? I need to hear this.
He put some video out and he said apparently that he's noticed the distinct lack of pigeons on the rooftops of buildings these days this year. So it's a sign that it's going to be an unusually cold winter. So maybe that's because the sun is further south than it would normally be. And that's why Will's planned the final experiment for this year, because it coincides with the sun doing something different to what it normally would. I think it was somewhere around about the 4-minute mark he ran out of straws to keep clutching at.
Was there ever any straws? Does that guy own straws? I don't think so.
I don't know. It still leaves the big question as to where's the sun going to go? What's the sun going to do? Are we in some magic spot in Antarctica where the sun's just going to loop around us, but then that means that the other side of the Earth's going to be dark for 4 days? I don't know.
Yeah, I do want to say, because if anyone has any questions in chat, ask them now, because we will be wrapping up soon. But yeah, it does seem like they just resort to magic. I mean, there's a whole thing where they try to use like lenses. You've talked about this on your channel, where they'll try to say that you can tell that lenses will make things disappear bottom first, even though it's not going to be the lens that will make things disappear bottom first, because the lens is only focusing the light. It doesn't really. The only times the lens has an effect is if you're like really close to like a table and you have things in or out of focus. Aside from that, you're not going to have much. But they'll say, oh, this thing disappears bottom first because of the lens is round or something like that. And it's like, I don't think they quite understand that, and they're just grasping at straws, thinking that something works magically when it doesn't.
Yeah, they seem to forget that they have to apply, whatever they say has to apply to, everything. So you show them one example of something and they say, oh, it could be because of this. But that explanation doesn't fit with 101 other things, but they don't want to include them with any of that. Or anytime they bring up something and they say, this doesn't work with a globe. Like, they'll show photos of, long distance photography and say, this doesn't fit with the globe mat. And you're like, no, it doesn't fit with your straw man of the globe mat. Here's what the actual globe mat is. It fits perfectly. And they just go, yeah, let's not mention that again. Let's go and straw man something else.
There's a good thing for that, actually. I have a thing that I could show you where it's a infrared photo. And it claims that you shouldn't be able to see most of... I can't remember what mountain it was. But it says, most of this mountain should be hidden. And then I went ahead and checked on... I think I talked with AB Science about it and said, oh, well, he showed me something to do with like a panoramic view that you can get, and it's matched perfectly. So I was wondering why it didn't match, and I actually went through the math step by step, and they had fudged the numbers. Essentially, they didn't account for observer height.
Well, that does not sound like flat earthers.
Yeah. Sable Eagle asks, are we all supposed to submit our own observations of sun azimuth and elevation each hour on the 18th of December too? I think that would be something that would be fine to do, but it's...
Probably not on the 18th, because I think that's when we're due to fly back.
Yeah, the 14th is when we're scheduled to land in Antarctica. And so photographs of the sun are going to be the most valuable to us starting on that day.
Okay. So yeah, the more evidence, the better. I don't exactly have the cameras for collecting evidence, so I'm sorry if I can't be too much help. I might be able to come up with some genius ideas, but I only...
It's okay. Someone in your audience might be able to help. That's the value of these interviews.
That is true. What? I don't know how to... Inelg? I have a question. How are you planning to keep the peace during the entire voyage? I can imagine things getting heated from the forced proximity even before reaching Antarctica.
We're gonna all be adults. I'm actually not worried about it.
Yeah, I've got my noise cancelling headphones.
I will say, I don't know about Austin Whitsitt. Austin Whitsitt can get pretty heated, but Jeranism is actually a pretty chill person. I've spoken with him, had a debate, but before the debate, we had a talk about, I think he brought up Andrew Tate, and because I had made a video on him, on Andrew Tate, and it's like, okay, and I can't remember the conversation, but we actually had a brief but small conversation about that. I don't think Jiren likes Andrew Tate, but I could be wrong. I can't, as I said, can't remember the conversation, but I do remember it being a thing where he was willing to talk about something aside from Flat Earth, and I think that is why, out of all the people that are going, I like Jeranism going the most.
Yeah, he's great. I've had a great time getting to know him personally, and I'm excited to meet him face to face.
Present 99 for €20 says, wasn't there some talk about Starlink to be there? Musk has to be good for something, lol.
Yeah, so Starlink is accessible in Antarctica. ALE has a Starlink unit that they allow their guests to use. I'm working on obtaining one just for TFE, so
okay,
I'm excited about that.
Yeah, that's good. I've actually have noticed an uptick in people uploading stuff from Antarctica. There's actually someone who I've seen make videos and then make videos in Antarctica and then post them. And I think it's something where he's just like at one of the bases there and keeps the lights on. And yeah, that's not something that was really possible like 5 years back. So that is one good thing about Starlink. I don't like how everyone's like my mum switched to it and then she hated it. I'm just gonna see if there's any more questions in the chat. I don't think so. So yeah, it's been fun to have both of you on. I wish we could have gotten Jeranism on. There was some questions that I think it would have been good to ask him. Because I would like to know how what he thinks about other flat earthers declining, going. That would have been something that unfortunately I don't have his email, and so I don't know how Don't know how to contact him, but it would have been fun to have him on. Maybe we can try another time. Who knows?
Thanks for having us.
No problem.
It's been great.
It's been fun to have you. I wish you all the best. Don't die down there, and for the sake of not making flat earthers more conspiratorial than they already are, please keep all the flat earthers safe, even if just from themselves.
We will. Thank you.
Okay. Alright. That's the end of the stream, so leave a like and subscribe if you like that stream. Leave a comment letting me know what you'd like me to do for future streams. I have a few more planned, hopefully by the end of this month. And I will see you in the next video and or stream. Between you and me, thank you for watching.